just signed.
That they'll
I'm
be
not sure.
controlling.
Did you guys hear about this or?
Yeah.
The UN and the WEF signed an agreement to work together, which they already were. They just put it on paper this time.
Yeah. Thank you, Harley. I
know,
love Harley.
I seen that a couple of days ago.
Oh, it's the UN and World Economic Forum 2030 agenda. Is that what that is?
And the rewriting of the Woo bill's almost done, so they'll be able to push that through soon too. All they had to do is take the names of the countries that aren't participating anymore off it.
No shit.
But you see why I agree with Matt. I've been saying the same thing too. That the whole world has got to get their ass into gear.
Well, the UN wants to control the entire planet.
A lot of those organizations were set up for practical reasons, but just like any system, it has its failures. You know, the whole idea of the UN was to unite and have those allies across the globe. But at the same time, you can never get everybody on the same page. You know, a great example was Iraq. The UN did not want to go into Iraq. The U.S. kept pushing it, and the U.S. went in it anyway.
I just don't think we're ready for a world government where we are not, especially these people at the World Economic Forum and what they want to do. Do you guys know that guy Noah Harari? That this guy is a piece of fucking work.
He's scary. He is.
Yes. You know what he said about rights? He said, this is what he fucking said. If you cut open a human being, you won't find any rights in there.
I didn't hear him say that.
He said that.
I heard him say humans are hackable animals.
Wow.
Yes, but we talked about rights. He talked about how a lot of people believe in rights. He says if you cut open a human being, you will not find any rights.
Oh boy. I think if there is
they're disgusting. Well, look at the guy pushing the COVID for the WHO. He hasn't even gotten a shot.
There you go.
Yeah. I think if there is a Nuremberg 2.0 worldwide, in which I don't know, I'm losing hope that will ever be, but I hope the guy from the WHO, Nobel, whatever his face, Harari, Gates, and all those go to the trial first.
Well, it could possibly happen, but not with this current system. That's a fucking problem.
Yeah, I know. By the way, when I was listening to Christopher James on Thursday, he was saying, all we need is to get enough police officers and military and RCMP, and he says, like to go to a courthouse and then have subpoenas to have all these politicians here arrested and then tried. And the trial would only take like 5 minutes, and then they'd be left to their punishment, which kind of includes a rope. Anyway, and then he talked about police on guard for thee and all that, veterans for freedom. He says, like, I don't get it why these, like, because he could use retired people. He says, I don't get why police on guard for thee and all these people don't, like, come and do this. They can do this with a lot of people backing them up.
Well, why don't they want to do it?
Like, I don't know why they aren't doing that, because that's all he needs is a bunch of police and military, even former, current, to go to a courthouse and then have warrants to arrest these people, and then the trial would take all of 5 minutes for each of them, and then they'd be let out to their just dues with a rope.
So, Chris Sky, I remember he was talking about that plan, And he's basically saying that it won't work. And the reason why is because as soon as you get a bunch of people to storm, I don't know, Queens Park or wherever it is, part of the Hill, well, right then and there, they're going to basically say that you're causing an insurrection, so therefore you're a terrorist. Now, I'm not disagreeing with what Christopher James wants to do. Again, like anything else, you need numbers.
Yeah, we don't have enough numbers, but he's kind of ticked off that, you know, police on guard and all that aren't stepping up to like have a conversation with them and talk about it, you know?
Yep.
I think people are afraid they're the only ones that are going to be standing up.
But he can't do it without them. So
I agree 100%. I just think people are terrified that there's not going to that they're going to be the only ones standing up saying do this, and then they get thrown in the bucket.
yeah, no, I get that. But because if we don't do this, if this isn't done sooner, like I don't believe that Trudeau's going to call an election until 2025. He can do a lot of friggin' damage between now and then. Like that's 2 more years. And we could already be in 15-minute cities, CBDCs, and totally fucked.
Problem is that it's not that people like I don't care how we fucking do it as long as it gets done. But the problem is that you got people that say, no, we got to do, we got to go through the court system. No, we got to do it this way. No, we got to do it that way. Constitutional conventions. I mean, I just people are just so split on ideas. Like everybody wants to do their own thing.
Nobody can agree on anything.
Yeah, I know. That's the problem.
Yeah. Like Chris Sky's doing his own thing. He thought running for mayor of Toronto that somehow he was going to change things, but the problem is that he ain't going to win, and he didn't.
No. Well, part of it too is mainstream media did not cover him pretty well. So the people in Toronto are just watching mainstream media, and then so Chris doesn't get any coverage except from Rebel News and True North. That's the only coverage he got pretty well. His independence, and people all think everything's good because of what they hear on mainstream media. Canada's great.
We trade lentils with India, and Trudeau is starting that. Listen, I don't agree with any of these governments. I don't agree with any of these political parties or politicians. So.
Well, that's one of the reasons why Canada's supporting Ukraine. We have a trade deal with Ukraine. So when you look at all these trade deals, that's how even the money's come back and forth. And again, it's always about money.
But we didn't have any trade deals with Ukraine till 2016 because Ukraine was considered too corrupt for Canada to be to deal with.
Yeah, and that's when they had a Russian-backed prime minister.
See you, Carl.
No, because the entire country's political system is completely and utterly corrupt.
Right.
Doesn't matter
That's when
who
they
they
had
backed,
a
it was just
Russian-backed
plain
prime minister.
corrupt.
They had a
Never been
Russian-backed
about
prime
the
minister.
Sorry, I missed that.
In 2016, Ukraine had a Russian-backed prime minister. Zelensky won with 75% of the vote because he was promising to stop the Russian oligarchs in Ukraine from running that country.
In 2014, Ukrainians were killing Russian descendants.
that was a Russian backed prime minister.
Killing his
Zelensky
own.
was only elected in 2019.
Okay, so a Russian-backed government was killing their own people in Ukraine. Is that what you're saying?
They were killing Ukrainians.
No,
They've
they
been
were
after Ukraine forever. When they annexed Crimea,
in
they were
2014.
then
They were
going after
killing
Ukraine.
Russians.
They were killing Ukrainians.
No, they were killing the Russians. Anybody with
Mm.
Russian descent.
Ukrainians were fighting off the Russians because Russia did not like the fact they didn't have a Russian backed prime minister.
No,
Yes.
no. Sorry.
Yes. My son is in the military and he's had many friends over in Latvia training the Ukrainian military. They were fighting off the Russians because of Russian aggression against the Ukrainian people. And the Russian oligarchs were all over the Ukrainian people.
So, unaliving an entire college of Russian, what is it, Catholicism or Christianism, whatever it is, they have their religion, was
Orthodox.
done by
Orthodox, yes.
Orthodox.
Orthodox, yeah. Okay. So that was done by Russians.
The Russian Orthodox Church was the major
Killed
corruption in the Ukraine.
So they killed the entire college. Russians did that.
The Ukrainians were fighting them. They wanted Russia out of the Ukraine.
Okay, well, here's a question for you, Neil. When Ukraine was asking to join NATO, did you not think that that was a threat to Russian sovereignty?
Sure, but why was the Ukraine a big issue? There were already 6 NATO countries that bordered Russia. Why was the Ukraine such a big tipping point? Because Russia controlled the Ukraine with their Russian backed prime minister.
Now, who else is on that border? On that Russian border that
Poland.
joined NATO?
Just Poland.
On NATO?
Uh huh.
On the border?
Uh huh.
Latvia. Not Belarus because they're Russian backed. Georgia. They're part of NATO. It's not coming to my head right now. But there were 5 NATO backed countries that already backed the Ukraine or NATO.
Right.
So why was Ukraine such a tipping point? Because Russia had control. The only reason even that Zelensky got elected with 75% of the vote was that Putin figured him to be like Trump. Here's this celebrity and he'll just roll over. But he didn't. One of the first things Zelensky did was start to cut some of the ties from the Russian oligarchs to the government. And that's when he became a big threat to Russia. Now, did Zelensky back his promises? No, one of his biggest promise was to stop the fighting against Russia. Because once Russia took over Crimea and pretty much scared all the Ukrainians out, there was still fighting along the Russian Ukrainian border, Russian backed, Putin backed, to take over because he
Well, that
did
war was
not.
going on since 2014.
Right. And in 2014, who was prime minister? A Russian backed prime minister.
That makes no sense. A Russian-backed prime minister was killing Russians.
No, they were killing Ukrainians.
That's funny because Ukraine was the one bombing its western provinces.
No, Russia was bombing Ukraine. The Russian army, by default, they weren't technically Russian backed military, but they were supported by the Russians to fight against Ukraine. They
That
took
was
over
bombing them.
Crimea. How did they take over Crimea? First, they sent in their troops, scared every Ukrainian out of Crimea, and then put it to a vote. And then the remaining people in Crimea voted for Russia.
No. Because they've had already been killing people there since 2014. Anybody of Russian descent.
Oh, by the way,
Because-
Georgia's not part of NATO.
Georgia isn't? Okay.
No. Latvia. Let me see. Hold on. This is right here. Oh, for fuck's sakes, where is it now?
I know there's 5.
Okay, here we go. Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia.
Yeah.
And then there's the Slovak Republic. But I
Right.
don't think those countries that are part of NATO are a threat to Russia. I think Ukraine poses the biggest threat.
Yeah, because
Right,
they
because
want to
they-
set up nuclear sites.
Right. And what else was the biggest problem for Putin was Russia was running all their criminals activity through Ukraine.
But here's the thing, though, and I've read a lot of studies, I've read a lot of articles on how corrupt Ukraine is. And it's not to say that Russia's not, but they say Ukraine is one of the most corrupt countries in the world. Even, while Russia backed president was in power, and now, it's always been corrupt. And
Right,
the reason
'cause
why
they have
I
their
think
Russian
that
oligarchs. The Russian oligarchs have been implanted in Ukraine so deeply.
but they have Ukrainian oligarchs too, though.
Oh yeah, sure.
It's
Yeah.
all it's
Sure they do.
just like here. It's all about the people in charge, which are the big money. It has nothing to do with Russia, or Germany or Poland. It has to do with the money on top.
It's always about the money. It always has been about the money. But Russia was running their criminal enterprise
That's
through
like saying
Ukraine.
Canada's doing it through the U.S. or the U.S. is doing it through Canada. You can't blame the criminal part on a country.
No, you blame it on their leaders. And when
Well,
Zelensky
Trudeau
came in-
should be responsible for all the illegal stuff that goes in Canada that goes to the U.S.
right, but when Zelensky came into power with the promise of fighting against Russia, that's when the Ukraine became Russia's enemy.
But Neil, there was also fighting on areas like Donbass that are predominantly Russian-speaking people, and apparently the Ukrainians were terrorizing them.
And the Ukrainians were getting terrorized back. Like Russia's been fighting against the Ukraine forever and a day. Once their Russian-backed prime minister was exiled, that's when Ukraine became a problem. And again, you can blame the U.S. on that because they're the ones who helped get the Russian-backed prime minister exiled.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And again, it's just another example that U.S. thinks they can go in anywhere, stir the pot, and then let them be. You know, they do that with every country they've ever been in. When they were in Afghanistan, they told the Afghanistan people, we will help you fight the Russians. Once you defeat the Russians, we'll help you rebuild the cities. We'll help you rebuild the mosque. And once Afghanistan beat Russia, the US fucked off like they always do.
But Neil, Putin has declared peace twice, and both times they said no.
Yeah, because Ukraine doesn't want to give up half their country to Russia.
Right.
That's
But
what Russia wants.
I think even before the invasion, they offered a peace plan.
Yep.
Yeah, but that peace deal was more favored towards the Russians.
Nope.
Yes, it was.
How
The
can it be
peace
favored
deal-
more towards the Russians when they were separating, letting Ukraine be their own country?
The peace deal was favored towards the Russians. When the Ukrainians said no, that's when Russia invaded. The Crimea is a prime example of that. Crimea, if you left all the people in Crimea alone and voted for Russia or Ukraine, they would have voted Ukraine. But Russia sent in their troops first. They sent in their troops first,
No.
ousted all the Ukrainian people,
No.
and who was left were the
Absolutely not.
Russians. Come on, it's history, man. The Russians invaded
No,
first.
Ukraine started
and then
bombing
put
the
it to a
western
vote.
provinces in 2014. Russia had nothing to do with it.
Russia went into Ukraine in
Except for the ones being killed
2014.
were all Russian descendants.
Russia went into the Crimea in 2014, which at that point was part of Ukraine, with their tanks, with their military, forcing all the Ukrainian people out of Crimea, and then put it to a vote, so called, and they then voted for Russia. So you're telling me that Crimea would have voted for Russia if the Ukrainian people were still there? Hell
Yeah, but
no.
Don't forget, Neil. Also, when they ousted the pro-Russian president in Ukraine, they didn't invade until when? 2021, 22?
Right, because Polachenko. That was Polachenko.
No, but after they got rid of the pro-Russian speaking or the pro-Russian prime minister, Russia didn't. I agree. He was pro-Russian. He was on the side of the Russians, but after he was outed or ousted or whatever, Russia still didn't invade.
No, because Polachenko was still in halfway, still Russian backed. He needed Russia. Ukraine needed Russia because
But
they
when-
were their biggest trade partner.
Exactly. So why would Zelensky compromise that though?
Because Zelensky didn't want to give up Ukrainian citizenship to Russia.
But
Like,
I don't think.
like, as far as Zelensky is concerned, he was a goof. He still is a goof. But Russia initially was backing Zelensky because they figured, here's this entertainer, just like Trump, that we can control from our country, put him into power, and he'll do whatever we say. Once
Right.
Zelensky stood up and said, no, we don't want your Russian oligarchs. One of the first things Zelensky started to do was cut off Russian oligarchs from having any power. That upset Putin because he thought Zelensky was going to be just a freaking doormat. And Zelensky actually proved that he wasn't, which miracle, because the guy doesn't know fuck all about governing. But he had enough balls to say, no, we are putting a stop to this. Or we
Putin
want to put a
already
stop.
knew that he was a that Zelensky was nothing but a WEF puppet. He never backed them.
It wasn't so much that Zelensky was a WEF puppet.
Ali
It's
Smith.
that Zelensky wasn't going to be Russians doormat.
But instead, he'll be the United States doormat.
Right.
Exactly.
Now that's a problem. And that's a problem with NATO. That's a problem with WEF. That's a problem with anything connected to the UN. Like, it's this side versus that side, regardless of anything. Are Russians the enemy? No.
No.
They're trying to do the best thing for Russia. But the Ukrainians want to do the best thing for the Ukrainians. So you have to give.
But they're not
Zelensky-
doing the best thing for the Ukrainians. They're doing the best things for their pockets.
They're doing the best thing for Ukrainians. And when you have the Russians who only want to have servants rather than masters, and UN, which, they just take anybody in who's willing to follow their rules. But you can't escape the fact that Putin, with all his frickin' KGB and USSR background, he only wants what's best for Russia. And if that is taking over other countries, that's what he's going to do. But they're in servitude to Russia. Now, would you rather be servitude to Russia or servitude to the UN? For the
Neither.
most part,
I'm sorry,
again, unfortunately.
Alice, may I?
Go ahead, Zeus.
Thank you very much. Neil, you're mixing up a little bit stuff around here. First of all, the pro-Russian premier, or he was Yanukovych. He was a pro-Russian. Then was this revolution. United States spent $5 billion for the revolution. Okay, and after him was a Poroshenko. Poroshenko was 4 years. Then was election, and after that is Zelensky right now. Now, when we are talking about the Crimea, 2014, Russia has a KGB, stuff like this. They know what is going on. Putin says not 1 inch for NATO, not 1 inch closer to a Russian border. It was in Crimea, was rented. They rent this Crimea, the port, which never freeze in the winter. Russians was renting and paying for Ukraine before, and is a big military port over. And in Crimea is around 80–90% population of ethnic Russians. So about 80% was Lugansk and Donetsk. These republics, very, very high population of Russian ethnic people. And when it started in the revolution, Putin sent this, let's in a quote, green people, and he take over the Crimea. He didn't want to lose the Crimea for 2 reasons. First of all, Russian ethnic people. Second, the military port. And after that, the people in Donetsk and Lugansk, they went on the street and they wanted to separate from Ukraine. Poroshenko, when he was a president of Ukraine, he says, quote, Ukrainian kids will go to a school and to kindergarten. Russian kids in Lugansk and Donetsk, they will be staying in bunkers and in basements. Okay, then was 8 years shelling the Lugansk and Donetsk. 12,000 people died, kids, women. They were shelling schools and civilians. And after that, Putin, he wanted to negotiate and stop the fighting. He says, enough is enough. I don't want to kill my Russian people. That's what he says. I don't want to kill my Russian people. They was trying to negotiate, nothing come out, and start the war. He wanted just to take take the Russian people in the east of Ukraine. Did I miss anything?
And again, you got to go back into history. How did Russia, under Stalin, treat the Ukrainian people? Was it good?
Just like the rest of the Russian people, just like the people in Latvia, Latvia, Estonia, three republics, Soviet republics, Latvia, and Estonia, they separate just as Ukraine from the Soviet Union. And Latvia, Estonia, they use the time, they join European Union, and they join NATO. In the meantime, because half of Ukraine is pro-Russians, half Ukraine is Ukrainians. Okay, every 4 years they had a swing, different way. One time pro-Europe, another time pro-Russia, and they wasted 20 years. Ukraine wasted 20 years. They had the time to join European Union. They had the time to join NATO, and they wasted the time to build the national identity.
Right.
Pro-Nazi,
And why didn't they join?
Nazi that Neil, listen to me. Russia doesn't care about the Ukraine resources. BlackRock is very hungry. You know what is a BlackRock? The richest people worldwide, very rich people. Ukraine has such a fertile soil. Is a joke about this, and I tell you right now, you might be laughing. Ukraine has such a fertile soil. You put a tire in the soil, next year you will grow a car. And most of the soil, most of the farmland is already in the hands of French, Belgium, United States, and so on, very rich people. Thousands of hectares of land, okay, and they own the land. No Ukrainians don't own the land anymore. Hardly any, maybe 10%. Rest of it is gone, sold out.
Do you
Very,
think
very
Canada?
cheap, very
Do
cheap.
you think Canada or the U.S. own their land?
You mean farming land?
Yeah.
Of course, very rich people.
No, they
You and
don't.
me, no.
No,
Not
they
so-
don't.
Yes, they do.
Because that's all being shipped overseas.
The grain is being shipped. That's why they want to sell. They want to make money. Grain is being shipped, of course, but the farming land is owned by very rich people, including probably from Canada. I know from United States, from Belgium, from France, Germans, and stuff like this. Very rich people. They buy thousands of hectares of land. You don't have to put a fertilizer over. It grows by itself.
It's all in servitude to other countries. Putin does not care about Russian people in Ukraine. He cares about that rich soil and all the rich resources
I think we
that they
finished the
have.
conversation. We finished the conversation because it seems to me you don't understand. The main
No, I do
reason
understand.
for this is Russian people in the east of Ukraine, Russian-speaking native people. If you look at the history
Wait
of
a minute.
Ukraine,
Wait a minute. Russian native people?
Yeah,
Who is native?
Russian native speaking, okay, native speaking.
Who?
Russian language.
Who?
They came from
Who
Russia.
is
Okay, the
native
Russian
to
people.
Ukraine?
In
Who
Ukraine,
is native
yes.
to Ukraine? The Russians or the
Ukraine
Ukraine?
is a mixed country. It's a very mixed
Thank
country.
you. Thank you.
It's a-
But the majority are Ukrainian, not Russian.
It's not as such as Ukraine. Ukraine is a mixture between the Russian, Polish, and
Oh my God.
Hungarians,
So is Canada.
Romanians.
So is
It's a mixture
Canada.
of people.
So is the United States.
Well,
We're a
yes,
mixture of
so
everything.
United States. If you look at the history back, okay, you can find the Ukrainian king. Okay, so it's no history as a Ukraine. It's no history. It's not such a history. Basically, Ukraine exists in the last 30 years. That's it.
So which empire do you want to go back to? You want to go back to Germania? When
None.
Germany owned all
I
that
don't
area?
understand your question. I don't understand your question.
No, you haven't, because you're not
No.
understanding. You go back to history and you'll find that the Germania Hungary Empire owned that entire area. It wasn't Russian.
At
It was
one point,
Hungary.
yes.
No, now you're wrong. Okay. It
No,
was-
no,
Actually,
I'm
at
not
one point
wrong.
it was. At
Right.
one point it was.
I
It's a
have
Kiev-
studied history all my life.
Ras.
It was. It did belong to Austria-Hungary at one point.
Maybe, I don't know now.
Yes,
long
it
time,
did.
long time ago.
I said, if you
Anyways,
want to go back to history, we can go back to the Roman Empire. We can go back to the Byzantine Empire. We can go
none.
back to the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah, but Neil, no empires. That's the fucking problem. No
But that's
empires.
the problem.
But Nero,
Everybody
we don't
gets
go-
into these fights because everybody thinks that, well, my ancestors had this land at one point, and that's the Ottoman, that's the Mongol, that's
I'm sorry.
the Russian, That's the Romans. You can never say that this land was ever truly owned by anybody.
I agree
None of
100%.
this land.
Okay, I
I
agree,
agree
but
100%.
Neil, it's not the Roman empires that is the war and people dying for nothing. That's
Exactly.
not a, we don't go back to the history. We are looking at this war, which is a useless war for nothing, People dying, lots of Ukrainians die. And
Everybody died.
How long it will go?
And that's the
what?
problem. But you're only looking at the very surface of history. You can go back centuries. That whole area at one point was Mongolia. That whole area was Byzantine. So which era are you going to go back to?
Oh my God! That's
You're,
Uh,
no, no, no,
here-
no,
here's
no,
the
no.
question.
Don't say, oh my God.
You're
Don't say,
on
oh my
left
God.
field now,
Here's the
Leo.
question.
You're
All
going
right.
back 50 to
Hold
80
on,
years.
hold on, guys. I don't want to mute you. So, Harley, were you going to say something?
Yes, I'd like to ask both of these gentlemen a question. Out of all the wars, who are the people that died during the war? One word answer.
In what war?
All of them.
Any of them.
Everybody other than the rulers.
Bingo. It's a game.
Thank you. That's what I've been saying. Oh, look, I found some artifacts that proves this land is mine. Oh, well, dig under that. Well, these artifacts say this is my land. Nobody owns land. This land was here before us. It'll be here after us, into the centuries after us. Nobody owns anything. The planet is one organism. Nobody
Yep,
owns
and we're
it.
pissing it
Okay,
off.
but that's a different conversation now, Neil.
I know.
The thing is the only game that they're playing basically a live risk game. They get to walk away scot-free, get lots of money, and thousands of innocent people die from even just
Exactly.
joining the military because they think they're doing the right thing.
Exactly. And again, my son's in the military.
Well, because they're told to pick a side, so they pick
Exactly.
a side,
Yep.
and then they die for nothing. They die for
Exactly.
the wrong
Right.
reason.
And I told him that when he joined. I am totally against war. I think wars are pointless, they're useless, and they're only there for the leaders.
And both
That's
sides lose.
But if we are going to go into
No.
history lessons, why are we not all giving our land back to the natives? They were
Which
here
tribes?
first.
Which tribes? Because they all fought over land just as much as any others.
Exactly. So unfortunately, when it comes to the natives, I support natives big time. But why aren't we giving the land back? Why aren't you giving your house back? They were here first.
Because the
it's the same
government
thing.
doesn't want them having it.
Right. Same thing with Israel and Palestine. Who was actually there first? Was it the Israelites? The Israelites weren't there first.
Well,
So they had to
according to
fight
their
off the
Bible,
Canaanites.
It depends
according
whose
to the
history you're
Bible.
paying attention to.
The Canaanites were there first. The Israelites had to fight off the Canaanites.
Actually, if you go back to the beginning of the Bible, it was Adam and Eve.
No. The Garden of Eden was nowhere near Israel. It was written in the Bible that the Israelites that came out of Egypt had to fight the Canaanites that owned that land. That were
was long.
dwellers in that
Adam
land.
and Eve. That was long after Adam and Eve.
Adam and Eve, the Garden of Eden was not in Israel.
Nobody knows where it was.
Well, according to the was it the Bible there, the Jewish Bible? I don't know. apparently it's their Bible's a land deed, so apparently they're entitled to that land. I don't know. I'm not agreeing with it or
And
disagreeing.
again, a book that was written by
I know
Israelites.
exactly. I know. But this is how crazy this world is. They
Oh,
base everything based on a book.
Oh,
Yeah,
history is
Alice,
subjective.
thank you for the window. I have to go now. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Zeus.
Good night.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't.
Good night.
I did not mean to cause an argument with anybody.
No, you're
No,
good.
just-
You're good, Ellie.
And again,
Everybody to just think that the only people that profit from war are the elites. Why are
Always
we
have
fighting?
been.
and it always will be. Like I have been a history and religious study since I was 16, and I'm 54. And I can tell you this: the reason why I call myself an agnostic is no one can prove to me that any of that stuff is real.
If you're going by history, it's all subjective. History literally means his story. So it really depends on whose version of that history you're reading. Because
Yeah, and here's the other thing. Every time a war, sorry,
No, go
Roxy. Every time a war starts or happens, they take some of the people and they transfer them all over the land. So nobody knows where their ancestors come from. Honestly.
Sure.
It
If we
happens
go
in
by
every war.
genealogy, we all came out of Africa.
This could be an all-night debate if we go that route.
Yes, it could.
The bottom line is that nobody owns land. I always say this: nobody owns fucking land because you're not here.
Exactly.
Like sooner or later, you'll pass. The land's going to go with someone else. So, really, nobody should own anything. We're just tenants here.
People have to
Probably
learn to
fucking
live on the land and not demand to own it.
But also, Roxy, make it better for the next generation that uses it, not destroy it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're
Everybody's
all
on
basically
this,
renters.
I am that.
We're all renters.
But that's the thing, I don't understand why we're renters. See, that's what boggles my fucking mind. I don't mind if we're what's the word stewards. If we're stewards to the land, that's one thing. But we're renters. That's what is astonishing to me. And then you get companies like BlackRock and Vanguard and all these these corporations basically telling you that they own the land. And then you get guys like Bill Gates buying up farmland and saying it belongs to him. It doesn't belong to
Yeah.
anybody.
Because it's always been whoever has the most money.
Right.
Like when you look at the Roman Empire, like I did a DNA and 7% came back British. I'm like, what? How could that be? But the Roman Empire, we took over England. So I'm sure some of my ancestries had like little merry ways with some of the English girls up there.
Who,
Neil, don't feel bad.
Now
I
that
was
you-
raised where, sorry, Roxy.
ahead.
didn't mean to- I was raised where we thought my grandfather's side was all French, and it turns out my mom got her DNA done and she's Scandinavian.
Yeah, see? Actually, mine came back Italian, Greek, Prussian, English, and French.
Sorry, Roxy,
So
were
my-
you going to say something?
I was going to say, if we're going to talk about people trying to take over all the land in the world and be controllers, who was the worst one that I ever read about than England? They took and took and took. Whatever they wanted, they went in and just took. And if you ask me, they're still doing it today.
Sure. Well, look at Thanksgiving. That's a horrible holiday.
It shouldn't be celebrated.
Exactly.
But could we rename it to Turkey Day?
Yeah, we could.
Yes, dear.
Because I like turkeys.
We know. Don't you dare.
I'd rather call it Harvest Day.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it is that time of year for harvest. I agree.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's a good
Yeah.
name for it.
Well, it's what it was really originally.
Yeah.
The Pilgrims, right?
Yeah. It was all to celebrate harvest. And the Pilgrims would never have had that if it wasn't for the natives that actually taught them how to grow because they were starving. It was the natives that taught the pilgrims how to grow corn and squash and all the plant life.
Now, would you say the Pilgrims were the colonizers, or no? I don't think they were.
No, unfortunately, the pilgrims they fell into the colonizers' trap. They tried to help them, and in doing so, they were punished for it. The natives have the best system there is. They had small camps that were run by one chief that then got together with the other chiefs from other camps to come up with solutions. In essence, the natives were your first direct democracy.
Yeah, but that was whatchamacallit, the Iroquois.
Oh yeah,
I believe
Plus
it was the Iroquois. Yeah. Because don't forget that there was a mess within the natives too. Like there was like a lot of tribal,
oh yeah, there was a lot of
Yeah.
tribal.
and those
But then-
guys were nasty.
Yeah, but they were the first to actually work out their differences and realize that they were
Yes.
stronger as a unit than anything else.
6 Nations.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Totally.
They got
Like I
together.
give credit to the natives for being one of the first to really understand that even though you had differences within tribe, you had similarities, and that you
Yeah.
were stronger as a unit than
Then you were
as
separate. Yeah.
exactly.
Cole, there was no anarcho capitalist back then, buddy. Sorry. Hate to
Yeah.
break it to you.
Yeah. But then again, once within the native community, you had your hunters, your gatherers, and your nurturers. And it took the first hunter to feel unworthy, in a sense, goes, why do I have to hunt and give all my stuff to everybody else? So he climbs up his hill and he hoards all his stuff. And then the next native, he hoards all his stuff. So that was the creation of your elite. And what did that do? It affected everybody else. Once your hunters start to become selfish and ignore their nurturers and the helpless, that created your divide. You can't hoard everything at the top and expect everybody on the bottom to be satisfied. That's why this 1% of the population that owns 90% of the wealth shouldn't be praised, shouldn't be rewarded. They should be not necessarily punished, but they should be accountable. When Jeff Bezos can make $11 billion in profit and pay no taxes on that, that's just sick.
Hey, Vice Grips.
What's going on, everybody?
Hey, big guy.
How's everybody
talking-
doing tonight?
We're talking about the colonizers.
Yeah. Well, is this guy a history major? I got questions.
Yeah.
Who was here before the natives?
Well, again, were the natives actually native? If you go back to DNA, they all came from Africa. They walked the land bridge. They came over to North America, and they popularized.
So, and again, I'm for, I guess, lack of education, but I mean, like, I am curious. Do you think black people made Asians and white people?
There were many different DNAs on that time. You have obviously your
Yeah, but if history started with Africa, right? That's the basis of the premise is everything came from Africa. So essentially, if you breed 2 dogs, they're going to come up with white dogs, Chinese dogs, you know what I mean? Like, so you're
Well-
saying the history
well,
of
yes
people
and no.
came from Africa, and they made white people, they made Chinese people.
Well,
They-
white
they made
pigmentation,
Russian.
as far as the skin, was not even relevant in like the second and third century. There were no white people.
So where did they come from?
It came from climatization, food. When you look at the northern hemisphere, that's where you find technically your white people. Well, what was
Yeah.
their diet? Their diet was whitefish, potatoes, basically anything other than your greens.
I get the premise of
So-
being farther from the equator. It would be, away from the sun, right? So it would be the pigments in your skin and melanin and all that
Exactly.
stuff. I
So
get
your
it
dark-skinned
to a
people-
degree.
It was a natural kind of evolutionary concept due to the climate that you were from. Blue eyes are primarily northern hemisphere. And why? Because we are technically further from the sun. Blue eyes
Scandinavia?
actually attract more vitamin D from the sun. So it wasn't necessarily a common thing. It was an evolutionary thing. That took centuries.
Wasn't Blue Eyes people only originally from Scandinavia?
Yeah, northern hemisphere.
What are you saying about my people there, Vice?
Well, black skin was a natural
What do you mean,
kind of
you people?
sun repellent. Black skin and curly hair were actually more of a sun repellent. One of
There's
the
a theory the Ice Age changed owner pigment vitamin D thing.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons we Italians and Mediterraneans get called olive skin because what grows in the Mediterranean? Olives.
That's us.
Yep.
Proud of it.
And that's one of the things with evolution. Like, so when you look at people's skin tone, we're all the same. None of us are actually white. We're some form of a brown. None of us are actually truly white.
Yeah,
We're
but
pink.
Neil, have you seen the Irish?
Yeah, they're probably the most white.
Hey, whoa. Don't go there with the Irish.
But
Okay, you guys are picking on both sides of my family tonight. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those
the
Irish are pasty white, man.
yeah, they're pretty pixie white.
Embryo.
And the red hair.
But we're fiery on the inside.
Unfortunately,
not outside.
red hair is actually a sign of incest.
Oh boy.
Uh-oh.
Will you just
Oh, no,
stop
you didn't.
tonight?
Whoa.
We
I'm
went there.
sorry.
Really? Piss off.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to say that,
Shots fired.
but a lot of gingers are basically from
Oh,
incest.
you're inbreds.
You and I are gonna have it out.
Sources, please.
Citations.
And they used to burn redheads at the stake just because they thought they were witches.
Yep.
Actually, he is
Well, I've
right
been
on
called
that.
many things, so why not?
Yep.
Yeah, but Harley, are you redhead?
Yes.
You can't tell?
I thought she was like a brunette or something like a.
Oh no, she's a redhead. She's fiery.
Oh yeah.
Well, yes, attitude wise, yeah.
I have my natural hair color is auburn with red highlights automatically, and I have blue eyes,
Oh, there you go.
and I'm very white.
Pasty.
I love redheads.
Embryo.
I'm Irish and I got red
injecting the
tinges
dogs with
too.
redheads.
Yeah, like Roxy, like you got like you're pretty
Yeah.
white.
I don't care. It all feels the same in the dark.
Yeah, say that.
Vice, what's that saying? White, black, brown. It's all pink on the inside.
Exactly.
Oh fuck.
You got
I love freckles.
Done picking on my ancestry now.
It's not about you. Calm down.
I'm just teasing you. Don't worry, I can roll with it.
Yeah, I think Roxy and Chris, Roxy and Harley have white privilege. That's why they're so white.
Yeah.
At least I'm not olive.
You got a
Well, I'm
750.
privileged. Can I have the money?
Right?
You got a 750 credit score as soon as you came out of the womb.
And it's been going down ever since.
But to the history major, though, I got a question.
Yeah.
Where do you think people originated from? Now, I don't want to give much precedence to it, but I always thought they say that the aliens kind of intercepted in our DNA and planted something. But do you believe that we evolved from an aquatic life form, or how did we get here?
Anunnaki.
I've seen so many different things on that. I love documentaries, and
What's
I
your
would
thought?
definitely
What's
say
your
that
personal belief?
our DNA probably does contain some foreign influence, whether that be interstellar or whatever. But yeah, I do think that we did kind of conjure out of just DNA sludge that maybe had outside influence. Like I'm an agnostic, so I'm not a very religious person. So I don't really buy into the whole creationism. I sometimes do think that we are more of a happy accident. That evolution over periods of centuries have made us who we are. From everything that I understand scientifically, I can't really say that we are created necessarily, but I would say
There's no
that we
proof.
have definitely have some interstellar influence. At the birth of our Earth, obviously we see signs of craters and foreign objects that would have influence on our creationism. It's hard to imagine the vast universe without some form of intelligence, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a god. I would call it a um, an a director, if you can say that. Um, but all the particles that we see here on Earth are nothing that you can't find in other universes. So when we look at how life began, I would say it was a combination of amoebas and amino acids collecting together, and we were formed. When you look at Darwinism, first of all, he never said that we came from monkeys. We came from ape-like creatures. So, yeah, from that ape-like creature, we then evolved. Even when you look at some of the primates these days, like some of these primates have better skills than some humans do. The understanding of the animal world is amazing. Just watching some of the apes and what they are able to do, how they interact. We're all basically animals.
Oh, for sure.
So
They have
But-
better social skills.
yeah,
But, you know, it begs a lot of
is
it begs a
really-
lot of questions, right? Like
Yeah.
if we were a derivative of an ape-like entity and branched off from that, we could ask a pretty good question. Well, how come the rest of the monkeys and apes in the world haven't evolved like we did, right?
That's
so
right.
that's one question, and the other one is when we are conceived, we are in the womb, we're in a sac, an amniotic sac of fluid, and we are water born, you know what I mean? We're preserved in a sack of fluid. And I believe, you know how a lot of people just look like fucking animals? Some people look like they're dogs. You know,
Yeah.
some people look exactly like their dogs. Some people actually look like birds. Some people look like rats. It's really fucking weird. And I think evolutionary. I think we stem from some kind of plankton to animal to land to fish
Yeah.
to I don't know. It's really weird.
Well, definitely when you look at primates, like look at all the different kind of primates. How many different types of species of monkey are there? So each monkey looks different than the other monkey.
For sure.
Chimpanzee, orangutan, great
Yeah.
apes, politicians.
And yeah, all the way through. So
Well, there are two different types of blood types walking around this earth. Some are RH
Negative.
positive. Some are, a majority are RH positive blood type. And then there's 13% that are RH negative blood types that have no association. They have no clue where they come from.
And they say outer space, but they also say if you look at octopuses, they said octopuses are from outer planet species.
yeah, very
Which is
possible.
it's very weird.
So are you calling me an octopus now?
How
Are
many?
you RH negative?
I am RH negative.
You're a monster.
Are you very
Yeah.
grabby?
Am I what?
Are you very grabby?
Grabby? No, I'm not grabby.
You got
there you
sticky
go.
fingers.
No. No, I don't. Anyway, I feel like I'm being picked on tonight.
Don't be sensitive.
Oh, I'm not. Don't worry. It better be me than anybody else. You're good.
Well, other
yeah.
nights it's Roxy, so tonight we decided to pick on you, Harley.
I'll take it. Leave poor Roxy alone.
Yeah, we gave her a night off.
I'm still waiting for her story time.
And singing a song.
Oh, okay. And I always wonder what the hell you were talking about.
You know,
Well,
and
Yeah, it's a shame because my blood type, they have no idea where. Well, I think they do know where it comes from, but they're not telling us.
do they have the answers? You know what I mean? Like why? And if they did have the answers, why would they not tell us?
Well, because there are certain traits with the RH negative people that I don't think they want knowing. The majority of people with RH negative have gifts, psychological gifts, spiritual gifts. Our body temperatures are lower than anybody with RH positive.
So you like the cold?
I have to sleep in the cold. I have to.
Yep.
I get overheated way too fast.
You want to hear an interesting story, Harley?
Go for it.
I was RH negative. I had the RH negative needle with all three of my children. And
Yep.
after I had the 2 shots, I became RH positive. My blood went from negative to O positive.
That's
Wow.
weird.
And
No,
how
you
did
know
they-
what? It's not the first time I've heard that.
so they can completely
Oh.
alter your DNA gene sequencing.
Well,
Well,
that's
there
basically
is-
what the shot does.
But
That's
there is a
wild.
DNA component in the shots. When they first started pushing them, they said it was only mRNA, but Dr. William Mackis recently published that they found out that there's 35 or some percent of actual DNA in it. And Health Canada is aware, and they're still pushing the new shots.
But,
Yeah, but
Roxy, you had that when you were born. Those needles.
My mom did it, and I had them with my children because I was negative. And after I had the shots, I had to get a blood transfusion there a few months ago. And she said, "No, you're not. You're positive." I said, "No, I'm not. I know my blood type." We fought. I got into a brawl with this doctor. And I said, "Well, those damn shots altered my DNA, honey, because I was always Rh negative." And she still will not agree with me.
Was
I'm gonna
it your
go and
blood
get mine
type that
tested.
changed? Did your blood type change?
Yes.
But
Is
wouldn't
that
you have that for on records, like a medical file proving that? That's why you
Yep.
got those needles.
Yep.
Yep.
So-
Actually, how do you find out your blood type? I don't even know what my fucking blood type is. I'm gonna be honest with you.
They have to screen for it.
It's a simple test where you can actually take blood from your finger, and I don't know how they do it, but it's done on a piece of paper.
Okay.
Because people who are O negative are universal donors.
Correct.
I'm O positive, so I'm not a universal
I
donor.
was
but-
always a universal donor until I got the shots, and now I'm positive.
So you're O
So,
type.
so
then,
you
right,
went from
Roxy?
O positive to O negative,
I went from negative
No,
to positive.
and
they're
you have
messing
that on
with the
paper.
DNA.
See, that's some alien shit right there.
It's documented all my forms. When I had my children, I had to have that special needle because I was negative.
But
I'm gonna go get mine checked to make sure they didn't
And
switch up mine then.
the gall of this brazen bitch doctor I had, "Oh no, you weren't. You didn't get those needles." I said, "Honey, it was my ass. It was stuck in, not yours."
But if you didn't get those needles, what would have happened?
My blood and the baby's blood would not be compatible.
But that I
Okay.
remember my girlfriend. I delivered the child and raised him, and they said that he was Rh negative as well. I don't remember them giving her a shot though.
Well, you usually get it within the
If-
first trimester.
She wouldn't get the shot if the child and her are both Rh negative. Because
you
two
have
of
to
my
be
kids, I
different.
did not have to get the shot for.
Now, isn't
The
it
other-
when
the
the
other ones we did.
parents' blood clashes, and that's what causes it?
Yeah,
Basically.
basically our bodies attack the babies.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Roxy, I never had kids. So does he? So if you're negative, like were your kids positive when they were were your kids positive?
Yeah.
She got the
So-
needle.
So does that mean, like, what does a needle do? Like, does it mean that your bloodstream would attack another pregnancy, like attack the
Yes.
baby?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hence,
So what-
hence
so what is it-
miscarriages.
Yeah.
So what does the needle do? Exactly. What's it supposed to do? I forget.
It makes your blood
It
compatible.
neutralizes or something.
I,
It
I,
makes your
don't-
blood
I
what?
can't get into medical terminology because I don't know it. I just know I had to have it.
Which
Okay.
shot?
So,
It's a Rogam shot.
Yes, thank you, Harley.
I had some Rogaine and my hair didn't grow.
Not the same stuff. Not the same stuff.
That's pretty wild shit, though, right? They got it all figured out, but they don't know.
But they
where
can't
we-
tell us where it
where
comes
we
from.
came from.
Hmm.
Or do they know?
I am sure they do.
I think they do know. I'm positive they know.
Right. Because if they do, the religious people around the world would probably lose their shit to realize that, you know, it was evolution and there was no creationary being or entity, and
That's true.
people's faith would go out the window and they'd lose total control of the world and
Or the
society.
scientists would freak out, and the religious people would be on a high. Could go either way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
for
if
sure.
there was proof, that you know, we were created by God, that we were, you know, let's say we're created by an alien species. You really think that the religious people would say, "Okay, that's it, I'm done. I don't believe in God anymore"?
No,
No.
they'd go crazy.
If it's proven that he is, why wouldn't they?
Because some
Some people
I've
have
seen
given
stuff,
the money all their life to the church,
Yeah.
right, and
and
we're
to
zealots, like they're
and
crazy about it.
to realize it was all for fucking a lie.
Yeah.
People would go insane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
they
in the
would.
Bible itself, it says you will not know the truth or reality till it's time.
Yeah, and
Keep
it's
on
funny,
showing yourself to the end.
right? And what's the one constant thing in everybody's life around the world that gives them, I guess, faith and belief? It's fucking
Yeah.
religion, right? So it's captured the world.
It's been around since the beginning.
Well, that's what I mean. It's captured the world.
Mark Twain always said that faith is a belief in something that you know ain't true.
That you could call me, and I can tell you that sounds just crazy to me.
I don't know. I've given up on that kind of faith. I kind of go with more reality and science.
Yeah, for sure. 'Cause
Can
it's-
you imagine if people
Science proved everything it's a lie in the last 3 years.
Well, I don't think it was a lie necessarily. I think science and medicine are
changing all
subjective. They don't know what they're doing, and I truly believe that they think that they're doing the best they can. It
There's
are
some
we
evil
lab
people in
rats?
there,
Of
though.
course, we're lab rats. All of us are lab rats.
I don't trust science anymore, I can tell you that.
No, I still trust science over faith any day. But one of the things that
It's just in the
Well,
wrong
there's
hands.
science, and then there's Trudeau science.
Yes.
No. It just can't fall into the wrong hands.
again, was it Trudeau science or was it the WHO?
The bigger people.
It was money science.
Yeah.
Well, money's involved in everything, so you can never just go to the money thing.
Yeah. But also, sorry, not to cut you off, buddy, but what you were saying too is we're all a lab rat, right? So if this was a global experiment, right? How many vaccines have you had since you were a baby? And every year it's changing for the newer generations. They're getting more and more and more and more. Like,
Sure.
I don't know. I see maybe that's so we're all part of that experiment. We're all like just waiting to see what happens. And I think that's what they're doing, honestly.
Yeah.
Anybody
again,
born from 71 and older, we all have a scar on our arm from some stupid experiment they gave us.
I didn't get that.
Well, again, it comes down to whether it was malicious or not. Like, one of the things that I always kind of go back to was the fact that there's no for sure's in life. Is the medical world 100%? Hell no. They try, and they think, and I think they're trying to do the best they can. Like, I'm a type 2 diabetic. So I was on metformin for about 4 or 5 years. And just earlier last year, metformin can lead to this form of cancer. My mom, who died of cancer, was a Johnson & Johnson baby powder queen. And how long has that product has been on the market and still on the market,
Right.
even though it does cause cancer in certain individuals. And that's the problem with medicine. These lab technicians are not in their lab making one virus or one vaccine for Roxy, one vaccine for Neil, one vaccine for Alice. They put out a generic vaccine that they hope is going to work the same on everybody. But
and
that's not
that's why they shouldn't do it, Neil.
right. And again, that's the reality of it. Like my sister is allergic to penicillin. So is penicillin a bad thing? No, it's not a bad thing if you're not allergic to it, but it is a bad thing for, let's say, my sister. Same with peanut allergies. Where the fuck did that come from? I
Injection.
can have peanuts, no problem. The problem with medicine is it's never a guarantee. They do a test run and they hope that it's going to work. Some people will get benefit from the vaccine and the medicine. Some people won't. Just the same way now, we just learned all those fucking anti-allergy, anti-cold medicines are for shit. Right?
Go back to nature is what we need to do.
The what?
Yep. If it's not natural, we shouldn't be putting it in our body.
Nature
Yeah, but
provides us
even
everything we need.
natural. You can take natural supplements and you can still get injured from them.
No, I don't mean supplements. Everything.
No, that's not
everything
true.
else.
There's two plants that have been proven to fight and eradicate COVID. Unfortunately, those two plants are poisonous. So not everything natural is good for you either. Because again, some people have allergies to shellfish. Some people have allergies to onions. Some
Okay, but
people have
Neil-
allergies to other natural
Right.
substances.
I think that's part of the
Neil, then
experiment.
why would they? But Neil, then why would they push the vaccine if it's a one size fits all?
Because we're not all the same people.
I
So it
know.
can't
but I'm
be- it
saying,
can't-
why?
it
Why
can't
would you
be.
push it then? Why would the government mandate it then?
Exactly.
They know that.
And that's what
They
I
know it.
disagree with.
No, I know you disagree, but I'm just saying they know that the vaccine is not for everyone, but yet they still fucking push it.
Right. And again, that's their stupidity. Honestly, truly, that's their stupidity. If they think one
suffer,
shot,
right?
huh?
Yeah, no, it is. It's their fucking stupidity, and on top of that, we suffer because of it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
But also too, it's not the laboratory's fault, right? I'm sure if we've all seen TV and movies, like they would have a section that's just trying to obviously be determined and work on addressing the concern of the illness or whatever. But then you would have another section or a faction nefariously working on ways to make it more effective. You know what I mean? Like how to, I don't know.
No, I
It's
agree with
somebody
that.
from the top, though. It's somebody from the top. It's not the people. It's not the laboratory. They're just going to work to do a job, I think.
Yeah.
It's the nefarious leaders that's the fucking problem.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah. And
this
again, it
person
comes down
says-
to the 1%.
This person says because you can't make 8 billion different versus. Okay, how about this? Don't make any.
If you give a vaccine to 8 billion people, you can make it for 8 billion people. You just got to
But
do a little more studying.
Not to say it in a bad way. If the medical world did nothing, they would have been crucified. They did something, and they still were crucified.
But Neil, that's not the issue. The issue is that they fucking forced it. That
Because-
was the issue.
If
And
they weren't making it, if they weren't making it in the lab, would they have had the issue?
Why did they
Yeah.
have the vaccine so quick? It takes a long time to get vaccines made.
Yeah,
long
but
time.
takes about
Oh,
COVID
they,
has been
oh, they had it? Like, come on.
But if you
Yeah,
have the
COVID has been around.
1990.
COVID is not a new thing.
No,
COVID
it's
has
not.
been around since SARS.
1960s.
So if it's been around that long, why wasn't there a vaccine done long ago?
They were working on it.
They were
Pfizer
working
had
on
a patent
creating
on
it.
part of it in the 1990s.
Right. COVID has been around since SARS.
And it still did nothing. It didn't stop transmission. It didn't stop you from getting it. All that
And
time, and it still did squat.
They knew that.
besides make people sick.
And
Yeah,
again,
they've
we
been
don't
giving
have enough.
people the vaccines.
We
Like,
don't
you're in
have
a
enough
fishbowl.
proof. We don't have
No,
enough
actually,
proof.
that's not true. No, actually, Fauci said that it was going to stop transmission. So did a lot of other fucking doctors. And guess what? They fucking lied.
Yes, I
So
did.
don't give me that shit.
And again, what they said was horribly wrong. They should know better. There's no such thing as a vaccine that works 100%. Flu shots. Some people get a flu shot and they're great. Other people get a flu shot and they get sick. Vaccines are not a for sure. They take a guess. And unfortunately, their guess does have life altering repercussions.
Just,
Right.
So,
oh, okay. I'm going to state my stance right now. This was not a vaccine. This is a depopulation needle.
It's a bioweapon. That's what it is, a bioweapon. That's what
you know what? Unfortunately, I'm going to disagree.
Well, a lot
Why?
of doctors, I listen to a lot of doctors from the U.S., in Canada, all over the world, and some have been poisoned and murdered for telling the truth. And it's not a vaccine, it's a bioweapon.
Well,
Again, unfortunately, I'm going to disagree.
well,
When it comes to the vaccine, why would the medical world or the elites want to eliminate those who follow?
Well, you
That
should
makes
understand
no
because
sense.
they've stated it. Gates stated it. Schwaz stated it. Plain and simple. Vaccines will depopulate. They've come right
They
out
want
and said it.
they want 90% depopulation,
Yeah.
so that
Yep.
they themselves can enjoy life. The elites, with maybe 500 million people left to serve them.
Why would you depopulate the people who are technically, as you guys say, they're sheep that would follow everything they do? If they were to eliminate anybody, they would eliminate those who disagree with them. They want compliance. They want people to follow them. Why would you kill off those who follow?
Less
You kill
people
off
to
those
control.
who disagree.
more
Less
It's all
reason.
people
about
to
control.
control.
Because a lot of the shots were nothing but fakes.
Some were saline, some
Not-
were the thing.
Jean
Yeah.
Claude said straight out, and Marlo reminded it. We are We are wasted eaters.
Yeah, it was Henry Kissinger said that we're useless eaters. That's what he said.
Yeah.
And if you save more resources for them, it just ensures their survival.
I agree with you guys. There is a big population going on in the world.
Amen.
But can I go back to this person here? That's me. Okay, I'm sorry, but talk about sheep. She says that the vaccines were never intended to stop transmission. And that's bullshit because, again, Fauci and many others did say that it was going to stop transmission. And then they had to retract and say, oh, no, that's not necessarily the case because it mutates. I was like, okay, then what kind of fucking medical professional are you? You're not a very good one. And then she goes on to say, that, well, the reason why it doesn't stop transmission is because that's what the masks are for. The masks don't stop transmission either.
They stop fluids from your mouth from going past your mask. That's it.
Yes.
And Moderna's vaccine was based off of a
I mean-
computer model, so no, thank you.
Yeah, a lot of
Unfortunately, some of us had no choice but to get them. And some people have woken up afterwards. We're still waking people up. If you really want to know, go read the Pfizer report.
I agree. I don't like mandates. I'm pro-choice on everything. I don't like the mandates. But when I look at what happened with COVID, it reminded me of what happened back in the days of AIDS. They had no clue what was going on. They were going by assumptions and they were addressing what they felt needed to be addressed. Medicine is not a guarantee. No medicine, whether it's natural or pharma, is 100% guaranteed.
Well,
And
then
let's
keep
not
it.
forget the AIDS propaganda that Fauci spread that you could get it from using the same utensils and shit like that of somebody in the
Eyeglasses.
house.
Eyeglasses too, I think it was.
Yeah,
And
all
Dr.
kinds of dumb comments like that. That was Fauci.
And
But
Dr. Judy Mikovits,
Again, go back to the AIDS epidemic. Unfortunately, I'm a hairdresser. I have dealt with AIDS right in the beginning. I had colleagues and friends, they were gay, and it was all called the gay plague. It was all, fluid transmission, and that's a problem. Now, when they said it was fluid transmission, did you get it from a kiss? It all depended on how much fluid transferred from one person to the other. And that's what they then eventually learned. So was Fauci lying or was he just not sure? And there's a difference between lying and not sure. Nobody knows for
Fauci's a
sure.
liar.
Nobody knows for sure. Whether it's Fauci or anybody else. I can give a shit about Fauci. But nobody knows 100% what is going to happen or what has happened or what should happen. They take a guess, they make a hypothesis, and then they work on that hypothesis. Look at AIDS now. I have a coworker of mine that is HIV positive. He has been HIV positive for 15 years. You would have been dead if it wasn't for somebody like Fauci that came up with some developments that made people with HIV live longer.
Oh,
So as
Fauci.
much as I can give
But you
two
got to
shits,
remember, Fauci hasn't come up with anything himself.
no, it's not just one person. You guys are blaming one person, and yet you're
No.
disregarding
Fauci's
everything
always
else.
been a paper pusher.
He is a paper pusher.
Yeah.
But when the AIDS epidemic came out, he was one of the front runners that came up with teams that developed medicines that people with HIV ended up living longer. So as
Sorry,
much as
guys.
you may not like Fauci, he is not this evil person that everybody making him out to be. Is he making mistakes?
Okay.
100%.
If you say
I can
something
handle it.
and you're lying, and then you come out with another lie to cover it up, that doesn't make you a good person. If he made a mistake, come out and say,
And
look,
what if-
I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Here's the facts. But he doesn't. He just lies on top of lies to cover
Okay.
up his lies.
No,
Okay.
it wasn't lies upon lies.
Hold on,
It was
guys.
about-
Here's a
Let
news
Alice
article.
talk.
Yeah, here's a news article. A vaccine could stop COVID-19 dead in its tracks. Fauci says he fucking admitted it. He said it, and then later on he retracted it and said that the virus didn't control the pandemic.
And who was pushing him on that?
And the mask. Don't forget the mask. He said the
the
mask didn't
masks.
do anything.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, all you needed to
Yes.
wear a mask.
I did see him. I heard him say it. He said that it was going to stop it dead in the tracks. And the reason why he fucking said it was because he wanted people to get it. Because a lot of people are fucking ruled by fear, and they just buckle. And that's why he said it. Then later on, he had to retract it and said, you know what? The vaccines really didn't do much to control the pandemic. No, really?
Definitely one of the things that Fauci is a political show.
I agree. He's a
was
liar.
pushing-
He is a liar.
Can I
No.
add something?
Who was pushing
Can I
him to
add
say
something?
that? Who was pushing him to say that?
Yeah, but go ahead.
Trump.
Go ahead, Harvey.
Handlers.
Right. And especially
What if I
Trump.
told you? What if Sorry. What if I told you AIDS was also planted just like COVID was?
Well, just to eliminate gay people. That was a plan.
Oh, don't say that.
Well,
Well, how do you
reduce.
I'm
Do some
telling you
digging.
right
dude.
now. I'm
Do some
telling you right
digging.
now. Why do you think the blood transfusions was a big thing? I'm telling you right now it was.
How many people got AIDS from a fucking blood transfusion from Red Cross?
And I'd like to say something too.
Go for it.
Well, okay, so Dr. Judy Mikovich, I don't know if anyone's heard of her. She worked with Fauci years ago, and then she was jailed for telling the truth. She was jailed. She couldn't disclose anything, and then when she could disclose it, she's telling the truth. She wrote a book, and she outrightly says that Fauci is a liar, and he's done this gain of function. And I trust her. You can go get her book if you want. If you don't think Fauci's a saint,
But
he's
Fauci
not.
he made money off of it, though. Of course, he's gonna lie. He's gonna lie about it. It's all
Well, that's
money
the thing,
driven,
though.
right?
If the biggest concern in history is humans' life, there shouldn't be a dollar associated to that cure. You cover the cost of the product and the manufacturing and the supplies and shit. Of course, that needs to be covered. But if the
We
greater
did.
good is for
Government did
humanity,
pay that part though, Vice Grip.
and who paid the laboratories?
The
Careful, you're
taxpayers
talking
did.
about
We gave them
socialism.
millions to come up with this.
Who paid big pharma and biotech companies the money for all
You're
the
talking about
vaccines?
socialism.
Here's another lie. Vaccinations will help coronavirus variants from emerging. Another fucking lie.
Now, do
But
you think the
government gave
vaccination?
companies millions to come up with a vaccine?
He's the world
And then
leading
we have
AIDS
to
fucking
pay
specialist.
again to get the vaccines. Does that make sense?
Anyways,
Do you think the
Here's
vaccine
the other thing. Go and
variants?
look. I got proof that the elites didn't go get it. Go and look up Trudeau's vaccine on camera. The nurse didn't even pinch his arm to grab the muscle where it should go in.
she didn't
And
wipe
it's a
it down
side
with
shot, so
anything.
you can't, nothing. It's a side shot, so you can't even see the needle going in.
Did she wipe his arm down with the alcohol?
No.
Yeah,
I don't
Yeah, I
know.
think yes. Yes.
But I
think-
remember thinking, that's weird. Why didn't they pinch his arm?
Because it's intermuscular injection.
I did hear that the nurse admitted that she did not give him. This is what she said, anyways. That there was some sort of testimony. But that's me. I think that's your name. That's me. She keeps saying every single virus mutates. That's not the fucking argument. The argument is that the head doctor in the United States said on a couple of occasions that the vaccines were going to stop transmissions, and even went further to say it was going to stop the mutations, and he fucking lied. And you keep bringing up that viruses mutate. I know that.
And what I said was the AIDS virus. Guess who was in charge of that?
Well, you
Fauci.
gotta know that Fauci is the world leading AIDS research scientist. So figure that out.
Yeah, and now people with HIV live 20 years plus. So go figure.
Yeah, it was all basically blown out of proportion. So that's me says. So we're here just to talk about people that lie. No, we're talking about people of a so-called importance in positions of fucking power that lie that affect a lot of us.
I got a question. Yeah, let's talk about people that lie because we don't want lies. Duh.
Jeez, I can't believe you guys. You guys always want to justify these fucking people, their existence. Jesus. I don't care about your friend. We're not talking about your friend. We're talking about people that make very fucking important decisions, okay, that can affect all of us.
Maybe it's the lies that's plaguing this world and society.
Which is driven by money.
Listen, For those people that are just hearing this stuff for the first time, I know it's a shock. I know you don't want to believe it, but really do your research and think about it straight out. Everything is designed for a reason.
Mhm.
They are trying to unalive
Right.
us.
But Buddy said
Please,
we're a
please
lab rat.
do your research.
And
Please,
Buddy,
I'm asking you. Don't take my word for it. Just go look.
Listen, Carly, what's his face? The fuck's that? The nerd there. Bill Gates. Bill Gates at a TED Talk talked about climate change, and he said how we have to reduce carbon
population.
emission. Yes, and he linked to the populations. And when
I
he said
watched that.
yeah, people were sort of like, they were like, whoa, like some of them actually even laughed because I guess they didn't know how else to fucking react to it. So yeah, there's guys like him. I'm not saying that they're all like that, but there are guys like him that do want to depopulate because that guy's a fucking megalomaniac.
They're
Yeah, that's
evil.
it.
Evil
And-
to the core.
As soon as the episode starts, it's at like 3 minutes and 31 seconds where he starts
Something like
talking
that.
about
Yes.
carbon dioxide. And then if we do a really good job with vaccines and healthcare or prenatal healthcare, we can reduce the population by 10 to 15%. That's
Thank you.
exactly what he says.
That's right.
And the fucking people clapped.
Yes.
I'm like, what?
And that's
Yeah.
facts. He said it.
And those idiots don't realize that they could be one of them. Stupid fucking morons.
You know?
And who funded the research for the vaccines? But him.
Well, you
Oh,
just
by
got to
the way,
question.
Did he not? Then he later on admitted that, yeah, you know what, the vaccines weren't that. They weren't really that effective. That's after he sold his stock.
Now,
Mhm.
if you want a patent on something, you have to have a tangible product that works to get a patent on it, something that you created, you made up, right? You made happen. If there's a patent on a virus, you own the rights to it. You created it.
Yep.
Wasn't,
now
he,
if you-
wasn't he in China
Hi, Gary.
Gates?
researching the virus just before it came out?
Yep.
Well, here's
Yeah.
the thing. We had a couple of Chinese scientists in our lab up here. I think it was in Winnipeg or wherever it was.
Winnipeg.
And they
I
got
think it was in
booted out.
Winnipeg.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they got booted out.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And
Jerry,
then-
according to some people in this chat tonight, they're convinced that fucking masks do work. Sorry, Bryce, go ahead.
Just go to Aquitas Pharmaceuticals in BC, and they have the patent on the lipid nanoparticle technology that every single vaccine uses around the world. So this country made a lot of money off of that fucking vaccine too. Everyone that was
Yep.
administered around the world or even stockpiled. Canada got a portion of that, or at least
And
a company.
Dr. Malone in the U.S. said Trudeau owns about 40% of the Acutus, and also the lipid nanoparticles were only supposed to stay in the arm, but they travel all over the body. And Dr. Brian Bridle said that. He studied that, and other doctors are saying that too. It's not supposed to leave the arm, it is, and they're still giving it.
And it goes into the brain barrier.
Yeah, and one man who died, they looked at his testes. Instead of being full of sperm, it was full of spike protein. And so they're trying to, in a lot of mothers having miscarriages, and it's affecting even nursing mothers. The babies are dying from the spike-filled milk. So, like years ago, if a vaccine didn't work, and now I call this a bioweapon, not a vaccine, but if, let's say let's say it is a vaccine. Years ago, if a vaccine didn't work or a med didn't work and it killed 50 people, they stopped it. Now, thousands and thousands or millions of people have been injured by this and have been killed by it, and they're still doing it. And right now, Alberta Health Services, as Dr. Mackis, Dr. William Mackis from Alberta, he's back on Twitter. He was deleted. That's another thing. All the doctors speaking against it were deleted from social media to
That's
tell
right.
the other side. And Dr. Mackis, now that he's telling the other side again, he says that Alberta, he had an interview with Laura Lynn, a podcaster from BC, and he said that Alberta Health Services is purposely, oh, he also said this to the National Citizens Inquiry too on September 18th of this year. He said that the Alberta Health Services is deleting records that showed that in 2022 the unvaxxed had higher immunity than the vaxxed. When the shot first came out, the vaxxed had a higher immunity, but then it waned and the unvaxxed had higher. They're deleting all those records that the unvaxxed had higher immunity, and he went to the Wayback Machine because he knew there was papers there or pages there that were gone. So he went to the Wayback Machine and got them as proof. And so why is the Alberta Health Services deleting records if nobody's lying? That's what I like to know.
I know people are getting mad and upset and whatnot, and I know it's a hard pill to swallow, but we support anybody that's just realizing this stuff right now. Please don't get angry with us. We encourage you to go and look it up.
Okay, first of all, who told you that a vaccine that gets injected into the arm only stays in the arm?
I've heard that from different doctors.
Really? Because when you inject heroin, it gets all through your body. Right?
It through a vein where
No.
the
injection stays where the injection was placed. It's intended to go through the entire body. No injection stays
according to
where
Dr. William
injected.
Bridle, it's not. According to other doctors I listen to, reputable
Doesn't
doctors.
matter. Any injection goes through the entire body. When I'm drinking my gin, does it just stay in my mouth? No, it goes through my entire body.
Well,
That's a fallacy that is totally, totally wrong.
Well,
I heard the same thing, and I heard the same thing.
Yeah.
But I disagreed with it at that point too, because anything they put anything in your body, it does go through your whole body.
Exactly.
Whoever said that, and I heard it too, and I went, "That's a lie."
Yeah,
But that was mainstream media. That was mainstream media that carried that
yes.
that
but Neil
report.
Neil,
when you
have to go through your vein though, it has to go through your bloodstream. Your blood stream, no?
It gets in everything.
No, but I'm saying if you don't inject it into your vein, then it can't get into your body.
No, it still gets into your body.
It does, but not your entire body, though.
No, your entire body. Like
through a muscle?
Yeah.
But how's it going to carry?
What feeds your butt? What feeds your muscles? Blood. If
yes, I know.
That's connected to blood. Right. It's now in your blood system.
Okay.
Avery, wasn't it just a certain part of the vaccine that stayed in the arm?
No, it gets everywhere. It gets everywhere. If you eat an apple, all the nutrients, all the good stuff goes throughout your body.
But it's going through your dietary tract, though, Neil. It's going through your dietary tract. That's different.
But your muscles are part of your bloodstream. It's going to get into your blood.
I believe the doctors that are actual doctors. They've studied this stuff, and I believe them over you.
And
so
there are actual doctors who say that once you take an injection of anything or an ingestion of anything, it's going to go through your body. I'm
Good.
drinking gin. I'm drinking gin
Excellent.
right now. Where's it going? It's going into my stomach. It's also going to my liver. It's also going to my kidneys. It's also going to my bladder. It's also going through my brain.
Okay, we get it, Neil.
We
Okay,
can
we
tell.
get it. We get it.
okay,
But
so let's
somebody
agree
brought
to
up a
dis-
point in the talk. If you're diabetic and you have to take a needle and you put it in your arm, your leg, whatever, it'll stay in your arm, your leg.
It goes through everything. I'm not on insulin.
Yeah.
I
We
was on
don't need to get into
metformin.
detail, Neil. Like,
But
we
the
get that.
argument is not just because it's intermuscular. Like, that's not the argument. The fact is, it's poison going through your body, period.
No different
That's
than
right.
chemotherapy.
Which they say was 98% ineffective, but doctors only do it anyways because it makes them a good paycheck.
Everything is a paycheck. Who goes to work without a paycheck? Name someone.
But Avery, I think you heard that from the mainstream media
I'll tell you
because
one.
I seem to recall hearing something about that too.
I did a brake job today, a 4-wheel brake job, and he tried to offer me $150. Times are tough. Money's fucking scarce. People are hurting. You know what? I didn't take a penny. I did it for free.
Well, that's good for you.
So I could do it. The world could do it.
Can you do it all the time?
I do it all the time.
All the time?
Every fucking day, it seems.
Then you're living on the street. I cut hair for a living.
Yeah, I'm not saying I go to work every single day for free, but I mean, I do a lot
Thank
of
you.
fucking free labor.
Everybody goes to work for money. I do freebies. I do.
We're losing the site here.
I do.
Yes.
I do bartering all the time. One exchange service for
Okay,
another.
I totally got you, but here's one question. When you're getting paid to do the greatest research for the greatest help of humanity, and there's any nefarious intent on any fucking side of that, if a dollar figure is attached to it for profit, you know, that shit's got to go out the window. If it's for humanity and the greater good, you know, all hands on deck.
So you want doctors to work for free?
No, they get it. Don't they get a salary anyways for working?
Well, according to you, they don't. They're doing God's work. They're helping everybody.
Well,
So they
that's-
should
is
do
that not
all
what
their
you're supposed
medicine
to
for
do?
free.
Isn't that what you're supposed to do, though? Isn't that the objective? Is humanity?
Really?
Humanity is not the
Really?
objective?
Okay.
Is
So
humanity not the objective?
a mechanic who does work for free is the same as a doctor working for free, right?
So you don't think humanity's the main objective here?
Okay, so doctors should work for free.
Is
You're missing the point,
humanity
Neil.
the
Should
objective?
doctors work for free?
Neil, you're missing the point.
They
No,
ought to
no,
get
no,
a-
no.
They ought to
I'm
get a
getting the
fucking-
point.
dude.
I'm getting the point.
They,
You're
yeah,
not getting the
they,
point.
They get a salary.
Everybody goes to work to earn a living.
Obviously.
Right. So you give free mechanical work. Great for you. But a doctor should work for free and live on the streets.
Yeah, because I'm sure that's where he would live.
Neil, we are not
Oh.
saying that doctors should work for free. You need to calm down and you need to let everybody answer and listen to them.
Oh, I am
It is,
listening.
we're not saying they should work for free, but there is a large group of doctors that are taking advantage of this whole BS that the government's doing.
Okay. So again, doctors should work for free. Gotcha.
No, doctors shouldn't work for bonuses.
Bonuses. Whoa. What
The
kind of
extra
bonuses?
money, the pocket money, the new boat, paid by
Let's see.
Pfizer instead of paid by the hospital and doing the work he does.
Prescribe
And
this
as a,
pill and we'll
as a
give you more
mechanic,
money.
as a mechanic, you shouldn't buy tools from Snap-on.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame you because some of them are shit. They're all made in China, anyways.
Well, there you go.
Okay. This conversation is going nowhere.
No, it's not going nowhere. This is just showing some of the hypocrisies that are out there. Everybody goes to work to make money, to earn a living. Some are doing this job, some are doing that job. I don't go to work at my salon to make nothing. I need to pay my bills, I need to pay my rent, I need to pay everything that I have. So I have to earn money. Everybody
Why do you have
earns
to pay for it in
money
the first place?
differently. What?
Why should you have to pay for it in the first place?
Pay for what?
We are the only species on Earth that has to buy our food.
But
Okay.
you're totally missing what I'm saying, dude. I know
No.
a doctor gets a fucking salary. They work, they make money. They went to medical school. It costs a fortune. They have to pay it back or whatever. Some people are just fortunate enough, the rich families. Obviously, doctors are going to have a salary. They work. They can make a couple $100,000 a year. I don't give a shit. It's the nefarious aspect of that side. Even if you just want to talk about a regular doctor, you go in for anything. It's like, here's a prescription, here's a prescription, here's a prescription. Oh, I got to try this drug and this drug and this drug. There's no natural homeopathic conversations in a doctor's office. It's go to a pharmaceutical and take this, and the pharmaceutical gives the doctor a kickback for pushing such a drug. You're contaminating society. You're creating a dependency fucking problem. You're making everybody sick and dying, and you don't think that fucking humanity is the reason and the greater cause to be a great fucking person and look out for humanity?
Here's a question.
Are you well?
Here's a question. Here's a question for you. Do naturopaths make money?
Well, let's see. Naturopath is being shut down by the government because you know what? They don't want them doing it.
I got this.
Okay.
If no pharmaceutical industry existed anymore from now on moving forward, how much would the naturopathic industry make now?
If there was no pharmacy,
Yes.
the naturopaths would be making a shitload of money.
Then why does the government want to shut them down?
How are they shutting them down?
They are trying to silence the herbalists, make it impossible for them to. Yes, they are.
Because
You
I
have to
buy
do your own
vitamins.
research because I've done mine, and yes, they are.
I buy vitamins all the time.
Well, they're banning
It's
them
not
real
just
soon.
vitamins.
They're
It's
I
banning
not.
buy
them
vitamins
soon.
all the time.
They
I
will
hate
be banning
medicine.
them.
I hate medicine. I don't like pharma. But
The problem is
naturopaths
they're trying to
make
silence
just as much
doctors.
money as
Neil,
pharma.
You're not
All
listening.
right. Hold on. You go ahead, Roxy.
They are trying to stop doctors from even suggesting a natural way to do things. They're not allowed to open their mouth about naturopath. They're not allowed.
And
Because
how
heaven
is that? When I
forbid
can
if
go
the-
online, right now, and I can look up a naturopathic medicine, and I can order it, and I can get it within 24 hours.
and they're
How are
trying
they
to
shutting them
stop
down?
that from happening.
Huh?
They are trying to stop that from happening. That's what
They're-
we're telling you.
They're banning.
How?
They're banning supplements.
That's
No.
the first step.
I just bought
Yes,
a
they
whole
are.
bunch of supplements. I
It's
just bought
not-
a whole bunch of
No,
supplements.
Neil. Eventually, they're going to ban them.
They're making herbalists all over the United States go through mandatory testing in laboratories and this and that because they know they can't financially do it, and it shuts them down. They don't want them around because Big Pharma will take a hit if people start going natural.
Well, COVID proved
And
that.
why do you think? Why do you think they are looking at naturopathic medicine in that light? Because naturopathic medicine, regardless of what you may think, can be as harmful as anything that pharma produces.
Absolutely. That's why you have to know what you're doing. One plant might work for you, but it
Exactly.
might not work for me. That's the same in anything. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try it. That doesn't mean it might not be a good fit for you.
No one's telling you not to try it.
Oh, Lord have
But-
mercy.
Yeah, but I rather
I
have
think-
naturopath. I rather have naturopath over pharmaceutical any fucking day.
Me
So do I.
too. Me too. I am type 2 diabetic. You know what I'm on? Nothing. I don't take metformin, Janumet, insulin, or anything. You know what I do? I regulate my diet. I use copper bracelets because that is a natural way of reducing blood sugar in your body. I use my diet, which is some of the best for reducing blood sugar, is avocado, lentil, beans, fish, cinnamon. That's my diet.
Okay, I got a question for you. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be a prick here. What does alcohol turn into in your body?
Alcohol turns into various things.
Like,
They actually have some studies out there
okay, just
The-
what does it turn
through
into?
the naturopathic, that a certain amount of alcohol consumption can actually reduce blood sugar in the body.
What does it turn into?
It turns into various items.
Like, can you say one?
Well, it still has detrimental effects on the liver.
Do you know what it turns into in the body?
You tell me. What does it turn into? Sugar?
Yeah.
Depends on what alcohol you're drinking. Because whiskey actually does not produce sugar. And I'm a whiskey and gin fan. And those two items, alcohol wise, do not produce sugars. You want to give me something that does? Wine does.
Do you eat bread?
Nope.
Starches?
I gave up on carbohydrates a long time ago. I cheat every once in a while, but carbs are off my menu. I eat fish, I eat proteins, I eat lentils, I eat beans. Every so often, like I said, I will, because of my Italian background, I'll have my pasta, but I try to go whole wheat, which is slightly better. I'll go Asian, which is rice noodle, but I stay away from carbohydrates.
Here's the
Anyways,
good health.
Neil, here's the thing about pharmaceuticals. On the back of a bottle or any prescription that you buy, there's a whole fucking list of
Side effects.
of side effects. Like
Yeah.
even the commercials. After a while, they had to mandate it that you had to state the side effect in all of these pharmaceuticals, and it's staggering to know the side effects. It's like the chances of you getting or getting a side effect is really really high with the pharmaceutical than it is with the naturopath or with just natural period.
I agree.
Yeah.
I
As
totally
far as I'm
agree.
concerned, them wanting to ban it makes total fucking sense. For instance,
Yeah.
in certain areas in the states, it still might apply. You're not allowed to collect water, rainwater.
Yeah.
Like, how
I
crazy
know,
is
that's
that?
ridiculous.
I
That's
know
absolutely ridiculous.
it is. It's fucking crazy that you're denied something that Mother Nature gives you.
Yeah. I totally agree with you, Alice.
Well,
Like, definitely one of the things that, and again, Alice, you know that we will agree to disagree on a lot of things.
Sure.
I agree on so many things that you say that it's like you're my brother. but then we'll have
What's up,
areas
bro?
where, um,
What's up?
when it comes to food, that's a whole different thing compared to natural product. Natural substances, to me, are still a chemical. And that's the way I look at it. Two natural substances mixed together is a chemical,
But
right?
if you take out of your garden and you make tinctures, is that how you pronounce them, Roxanne?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, all you're doing is you're just taking what Mother Nature's given you, and you're just making it, making it into some sort of well, I don't want to say medicine, but you're making something to make your body better.
True. But also you gotta consider, what are most people allergic to is some kind of a natural substance. You're allergic to a flower. You're allergic to pollen.
But
You're allergic.
Neil, here's another argument though. Is that a possibility because of years of vaccination? That
Maybe it was part of the design.
And
Yep,
toxins
very
from
much
the
so.
environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The same thing I said with peanuts. When did peanut become such a deadly substance? That was
Right.
in your mid 70s when GMOs were introduced. So, unless you want to go back to actually doing everything yourself, making everything yourself, growing every plant, every kind of substance,
No, I mean
raising.
you could have neighborhood gardens like they do in Switzerland.
Yeah.
And you can
And
forage in the wild for a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What Switzerland is so far advanced in their society that it's
Yes.
incredible that we have not adopted so
Oh
many
no,
things.
no, no. Everybody says that every time somebody talks about Switzerland. Oh, you mean their banking system?
No, everything.
I just
Oh,
went to
you mean
Colorado.
is that where all the rich people hide their money?
And all the
Oh,
bunkers.
And yeah, and by the way, they did reform their laws there. So now you know what? People don't go to Switzerland anymore to hide their fucking money. What? So they don't have to pay taxes.
Yeah.
It used to be a tax haven, not anymore.
True that. True that.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of the Scandinavian countries, like even when you look at our homeless situation here compared to them, like the homeless in Sweden have a far better situation than we
big
have
time.
here.
Big time.
Okay. I say, you know what? All these beautiful little planted trees that we have alongside of the road should be apple trees so that the homeless have something to eat. You know, like we could do so much better. You know, like
Well, how about just taking the homeless off the street? Period. Right.
oh, totally,
Yeah.
totally. Like, and again, this is a problem with government in general, but this is also a problem with people in general.
Mhm.
Is that we have the capability, we have the resources to take these people off the street,
I already figured that one out.
but we don't do it.
But
And
we
it's
just
all
don't
because
have-
of money.
We just don't have the intelligence. I mean, look at some of the fucking
Okay.
people here. That
Neil?
I told them. Sorry, go ahead, Harley.
Sorry, Neil, you can
That's right.
see that it's the government's that responsible for the homeless issues and whatnot.
Yep.
If they're willing to do that, can you not see that they would be willing to jab a bunch of people with stuff that we have no idea what it is?
Or nefarious.
Well, if they were going to jab anybody, they jab them with heroin. That way they can kill themselves faster.
Well,
No,
Vancouver's
because
got,
then you'd be suspecting and onto
cocaine.
their fucking action. If they can't do it just in plain sight. Hey, I'm gonna fucking kill you. No, they have to pretend that they didn't.
No, they have to pretend that, oh, yes, this vaccine is going to stop transmission and it's going to stop mutation and all this
And
other fucking
confuse
bullshit.
people, and make
Yeah.
people wonder, and then make them scared and listen and follow and obey, and walk in to the fucking gas chamber because it's your time.
Yeah, but you could also look at it from a very different point of view. Like, when you can have a McDonald's Big Mac sit on your counter for a month and it doesn't mold over, who's trying to kill us?
Actually, you know what? There's a guy that actually has a cheeseburger, and he's had. You know what? I might be wrong, but at
I've
least
seen
over
that.
10 fucking years,
Yeah.
and that fucking thing hasn't aged.
Yeah.
I've seen another one with
noticed
like
that-
20 years.
Has anybody noticed that bread doesn't seem to mold anymore?
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't either.
And why is
That's-
that?
Because of
That's
chemicals.
GMO. GMO.
Monsanto, thank you.
Monsanto.
In charge
Bayer.
of the GMOs, and who's in charge of patenting things, and who's in charge of basically running?
Well, the Food and Drug Administration, who's in charge of that? Who
Elites.
allows these companies
Elites.
to put these chemicals into our
It's the
food?
elites.
The Canadian Food Inspection Agency
Which is
inspects
owned by
all
elites.
the food we eat, yet they've allowed all these chemicals into the food production.
That's the elites for you.
And that's
So-
the elites. Totally.
Now they're saying
Why-
it's all bad for you, but they've allowed it.
Why has Europe been strong enough to ban Monsanto and Bayer? And yet North America, we bend over and take it up the ass.
Well, we got
Well,
the same
because-
question.
Again, Neil, you got people in here who believe that the fucking vaccine, mask. They still believe that masks work. They still believe that voting for the lesser of three evils works.
They believe the government really works.
Yeah.
Yep. I totally agree. Now, what makes Europe's government better than ours?
I
They
think
have-
that the European people are
working
more
together.
They got smarter.
Yes,
Well,
and they don't
yeah.
take any shit. Look at France.
but Europe has adopted more of a socialist kind of background. We are so far up capitalist ass. It's amazing that we can see our face. Like capitalism is totally dysfunctional.
I agree. It's gotta go.
It's got to go. It's got to go. Like, we have to look after ourselves. We have to look after our neighbors the way it used to be. Like, people look at socialism, and when they hear socialism, they hear a nasty word. Socialism, like, if capitalism was so good, unions would never have been needed.
Right, but here's the thing, though, Niels. It doesn't matter. Sorry, Neil. It doesn't matter what system you have in place. Again, if you have a central authority making decisions for the rest of us, you can call it whatever you want. It's just not going to work because because eventually it will corrupt.
Oh, I agree with you 100%, Alice.
That's why
What-
communism didn't work. Communism didn't work for that reason.
Sure. Communism on paper actually looks pretty good.
Sure. Yeah, it
But
does. It is.
In practice, it doesn't.
It doesn't work. No.
Now, socialism is a situation that I don't know why people don't get more behind. It's a situation where the workers control more of the situation.
But don't
Germany
you think
is
but don't you, Neil, sorry to interrupt you, but don't you think self-governance would lead us to socialism?
Well, sure, 100%. Definitely one of the things that is similar with self-governing and socialism is exactly that. Like when
It's
when you look
socialism.
at, when you look at Germany, like Volkswagen as an example, the board of directors have to have 50-50 representation of
Yes,
workers.
that's
Come-
right. Yes,
No.
you're right. Yeah,
Exactly.
I
Now,
heard about that.
the workers are the ones on the front lines. They know what's happening, just like the
Bingo.
military. The military, your front line workers, they know what's happening in a war. The fucking generals don't know shit. Your front line people, your workers need to be listened to. We know what's out there. I have been a hairdresser now for 30 years. 15 of it as a worker, 15 as an owner. I know what my staff goes through, and sometimes it kills me to have to take the amount of taxes off of them when they perform well. And that's a tragedy. They
Yes.
need more say.
But can I
And
tell
I
you something
li-
about World War II? So World
Yeah.
War II, after the Yazidis were defeated,
Yeah.
I believe there was something called Operation Paperclip, which saw the Americans take all the scientists and engineers out of Germany,
Yeah.
and the Russians took the workers. So they
Yeah.
took the German workers. So a
Yeah.
buddy of mine made this point to me. He says, "Okay, so the Americans took, they took all these scientists and architects or whatever, but the Russians took the actual workers. But who
Yeah.
made it to space first?
Good point.
Yeah.
You know, and
So
that,
basically, workers are what makes fucking anything go. Not
Exactly.
middle management, not management, not this
No.
micromanagement bullshit.
management is
Now here's the other thing,
Yes.
Neil. You were
Yeah.
saying the soldiers at the front line know what's going on. They know what's going on in front of them, but they have no idea what's going on behind closed doors with the head guys.
True. It's always been that way, hon. And this is something I told my son right from the beginning. When he decided to join the military, I said, be careful. Because unfortunately, your destiny is being controlled by these people. Now, whether he agrees with it or not, he has to follow those rules. And that's a problem. Now, when you have a situation like the military where you're just a soldier, that's why this Nazi empowerment, was he an actual Nazi, or did he actually truly believe that he was fighting for the rights of Ukrainian people? Because at that time in history, Stalin was horrible to the Ukrainian people. So can I see him joining the Germans? 100%. No different than my uncle when he fought alongside of Mussolini against the Allies. Now, was my uncle a horrible person? Not that I really cared for him, but I understood where he was coming from. They felt they were fighting for the betterment of their country. He was doing what Mussolini said because he truly thought that Mussolini was looking out for the better interest of Italy. Did this guy fight with the Germans because he was totally aligned with their ideology? Or was he fighting against Russia because he was fighting on the Eastern Front, not the Western Front, against how Stalin was brutalizing the Ukrainian nationalists? So I can vary on both sides on that. Now, when we look at how countries are run, they are run by their leaders. And you either align with them or you align against them. I don't care for our government. I think Trudeau's a dick. Is he a dictator? No. He's a dick, but he's not a dictator. Dictators would not allow people to fly a fuck Trudeau flag. If you were in Russia and flew a fuck Putin flag, you're either dead or in jail. So is
Do you
Trudeau a
not see it
dictator?
coming?
He's a narcissist.
Do you not see it coming, Neil?
The what?
Do you not see it all coming? This is all
That's-
how it begins.
No, because when Trudeau got elected back in what, 2016, was he a dictator? No. Was he trying to do what he thought was better for Canada? Yes. just like any other politician. But it's
Totally.
when COVID came out that
No.
everybody was like, well, wait a minute, this is wrong. What Trudeau did that was wrong was he sided with what was the unified ideology of WHO and the United Nations and the WF. If Harper was in place, he would have done the same thing. If Polyev was in place, he would have done the exact same thing. And don't tell me any
Called
different.
being bought out.
What?
They're bought out.
They're all bought out.
Yeah.
Harper was
Yeah.
a WF. Polyev was a WF.
Exactly the point.
Right? So it didn't matter who was in power. The fact that Trudeau was in power during this whole shenanigan is irrelevant. Any other politician would have done the exact same thing. Now, look at the States. Trump was the biggest supporter of getting the vaccine out. If Trump re-elected, all his MAGA minions would have been the first in line to take the vaccine. But he didn't get reelected.
That's because Trump is controlled opposition.
Right? Right. But Biden got reelected. And all of a sudden, this warp speed on the vaccine push that Trump started then became a bad thing. But the Democrats were also hypocrite because no, he's pushing it too fast. We're not going to take it. But then they got elected, and now it's a good thing. They're all fucking hypocrites.
They all pushed it because they all made money off of it.
Everybody makes money, and that's the thing. Now, who do you listen to?
But Neil, but you make money for the right reasons, not for that. Not when you're gonna compromise someone's fucking health or life.
True. Now, who made money off of the Iraq War?
Oh fuck yeah! The developers,
military industrial complex.
Yeah,
definitely Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney, who was head of what was that fucking company?
Well, I think it was. It wasn't right. It wasn't Raytheon. It was another one.
Carlyle Group.
Yes,
yeah, Carlyle Group. So they all made money off of it, all of them. And who died?
And
who suffered?
Bush is a part owner of that too.
Exactly. Yep. So
Clintons.
But that's the problem. The problem is people like that have connections to these businesses and corporate fucking monstrous companies, and they get into government and they force certain projects and plans to go into a certain direction, which would directly or indirectly fund their own wealth, right? And they have other people. Yeah. So that is a problem. So you're assuming our country's headed in a great direction, or it's going in a shitty direction. If it's going in a good direction, let's promote it and keep it going. If it's going in a shitty direction, if you don't want to just be forced to put some vaccine shit in your arm every single year, they're just going to come out with a few more vaccines until what? Like by the time you're dead, you had like 56 vaccines in your body. Do you know the long-term study of that? Do you know the effects of that? I doubt any fucking buddy does. So if it's not for the greater good, if it's not for the greater humanity, and if it's got a profit beside it, then don't fucking do it.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that.
Do you want to change the government, or do you want to keep it the way it is?
No. I can agree with you on that. Like, when it comes to anything, like I said before, we're all basically lab rats.
Yeah. But then why would you doubt the nefariousness of a vaccine if you think you're a lab rat? You don't think there's a nefarious agenda behind it all?
Depends on what you think as an agenda. Do I think there's
regardless any agenda?
Well, again, do I think there's a sinister leader that is perpetuating all this? I'm going to say no. Do I think that there's nefariousness? Sure. But it's so complex.
Okay, so get rid of the system or keep it.
It needs to be
Simple.
changed.
Just simple answer: yes, keep it, or no, fucking get rid of it.
No. It needs to be changed, but it depends on
Okay.
how you look at it.
And how would you change it? How would you change it?
Well, definitely one of the things that needs to be changed is accountability. No matter which way you look at it, everybody has to be accountable. So one of the things I find that is so despicable is that nobody's accountable. Now, we know there's two systems. We know there's a system for the elite, and we know there's a system for us. Because if you look at it, if you and I did anything that Trump did, we would have been in jail already. But he's getting away with it. People in that kind of higher level seem to get away with things. We don't. Now, how is that a fair system? Now, when we look at how the system is set up, we'll always bow to this elite versus us. And why? Because we're empowering them. Why are we empowering them? Because we buy into their schemes. We buy into Elon Musk. We buy into Jeff Bezos. Like, do we need them? No.
Well, who needs
But
them?
we
I
bow
don't.
to them. What?
So you're almost, I will give you half credit. You're almost fully awakening. We just got to take that last step.
Life. I've been awake all
No,
my
you
life.
still, not completely.
No, I would disagree.
He's not a fool.
pretty awake
He's
all
not
my
a
life.
fool.
Guys, I know we're having a great conversation, but I'm gonna have to end it because it's getting late for me. But I appreciate the conversation, guys.
Yeah, appreciate you too, Alex.
Thank you, Niels.
Have a good
All
one.
right, guys.